I've been a long-time Dragon Age fan, having played since Origins way back in 2009. So it was with some trepidation that I busted out Dragon Age the Veilguard, the first in the series for a decade. It's a game that felt like it would never arrive. But now that it's here, is it any good? Well, Dragon Age the Veilguard is a visually stunning game with a fun combat system which is undermined by inconsistent writing, repetitive enemy encounters, and volatile narrative pacing. The plot is a series of quests strung together with a loose framework that doesn't always make sense. There's not enough breathing room in the first act, a frenetic wall of hyperactive characters constantly talking at you. And there are enough pantomime villains here to fill 7 Christmas pageants. But the biggest problem facing Dragon Age the Veilguard is that of infantilization. With its deep lore and references, the game is squarely aimed at dedicated long-term Dragon Age fans like me. But it treats us like we're children, as if we've never played a Dragon Age game before. Characters are constantly over-explaining what to do or how to solve puzzles. Battle barks tell you when to roll and move. And while I can't quite figure out if this is an accessibility measure, it becomes grating when you're an experienced player on high difficulty modes. Romances avoid intimacy, resulting in stilted, near-humorous relationships with the player's love interest. Is it an effort to appeal to a broader audience? I'm not sure, but the Veilguard's convoluted plotline relies solely on knowledge of Dragon Age Inquisition, so I can't imagine new players finding this an easy story to follow. I finished Dragon Age the Veilguard in 70 hours, completing all the character quests and side quests, so I have a very holistic gauge on the entire game. Now, there are going to be some mild spoilers in this video, but I'll let you know when and where they are. At any point, you can jump to the chapter about gameplay, which is totally spoiler-free. First up, some spoilers here for Dragon Age Inquisition, but it's been 10 years, guys, so if you haven't played it, you probably should before you play the Veilguard. Dragon Age the Veilguard picks up after the Trespasser DLC, where it's revealed that permanent party pest and nuisance nugget head Solus is actually an ancient elven god. This was one of the most gasp-inducing reversals in gaming history. The Veilguard's plot is clearest when it follows Solus's backstory. In fact, finding the Fen'Harel statues provides the most coherent exposition you'll get in this game. The through line of preventing Solus from opening the veil and destroying the world gets waylaid as the story fractures. Alongside Solus, you need to defeat 2 other gods and 2 archdemons, all the while fixing your 7 companions, each with their own nemesis to defeat. You're given a thin narrative frame to justify these diversions in the face of imminent doom. Fix your friends and you fix the world. The gods are, of course, busy with their plans to take over the world. There's still time for forest walks and coffee dates.
Smells like Lucanis.
Companion quests are an important flagship of BioWare games. There's a consistent message that loyalty will get you through do-or-die situations, that friendship conquers villainy. Some companion quests in Dragon Age the Veilguard are more intriguing than others. Who can't but help love the delightful necromancer Emmerich and his skeleton child Manfred? Or playing parent to a griffin with Davrin. These side quests become somewhat repetitive. Track down big bad that is serving an even bigger bad throughout the realm. So many big bad guys, so little time. In Inquisition, the character quests integrated well with the through line of stopping the rift. In the Veilguard, these divided storylines take away from the through line of the narrative. Through line is important in any storytelling. It's what compels the player forwards to the end of the game. If it lags, there's a chance the player will lose interest and put away the controller for something more compelling. It's a hard balance to maintain because you want to reward players who explore every avenue and every side quest, but games work best when side quests serve the story, either in reinforcing the game's themes or providing more insight on a larger plot. Players shouldn't be punished for following the story. What starts as intrigue in the Veilguard to find out more about your new companions quickly becomes a bit of a slog. Like Mass Effect before it, companion quests must be completed between key plot points unless you want to risk failing the endgame. If there's one thing I can recommend, it is to take your time with Dragon Age the Veilguard. Duck in while you enjoy it, leave it when it becomes a chore, then come back to it again. Part of my frustration stems from the wildly varying quality of the written dialogue. I almost threw my controller across the room when early on, characters wandered into an abandoned village and said, "It's quiet. Too quiet."
It's so quiet.
Haven't we moved past this kind of cliched dialogue? Rarely was I struck by the beauty of a line or laughed out loud. I mean, who can forget the immortal Varric line from Dragon Age 2? Opinions are like testicles. You kick them hard enough, it doesn't matter how many you got. Some characters have defined voices like Emmerich, others speak in generalities. Harding states the obvious at every quarter. Nev barks in flat staccato, but she grew on me as the story progressed. Now, I'm going to get some vague spoilers for the Veilguard itself, so do skip ahead if you want to stay clear of anything. In trying to endear us to these characters, BioWare wants us to feel the impact of our choices. But when your hand is hovering over a pick between these two characters, anyone who's played a BioWare game in the past 20 years knows they're sending someone to their doom. Veilguard's plot twists were signposted so large they could be freeway billboards. Despite the foreshadowing, these choices would remain poignant if we cared about the characters. But I found myself only vaguely moved by some of the dramatic outcomes. A single tear shed for one of the characters in a game that wants to command devotion to all. Speaking of devotion, shall we talk about the romance? I mean, that's why we all play BioWare games, right? I mean, saving the world is a mere justification for our thirst. When I saw the trailers for Dragon Age the Veilguard, I knew I only had one choice. I've had a thing for the mysterious beard man since Viggo Mortensen sat in a corner of the prancing pony smoking a pipe. Yes, I romance Blackwall and I will die on this hill. Blackwall forever. So, when Dragon Age the Veilguard offered me a suave, coffee-drinking, mysterious beard man in the shape of Lucanis Dellamorte, I was committed. Now, I'm going to share some spoilers for the Lucanis romance here. Again, skip ahead if you don't want to hear them. While Lucanis' romance started in a promising way, his passion for the Antivan Crows and his position as an assassin overshadows the romance he has with Rook. While I can't speak to other romance options, the cinematics failed to deliver on the promise of the dialogue. Lucanis promises commitment while standing stock still. There's hardly a kiss or a touch, just an intense stare and a bit of a smirk. It's not a critique of the voice actor, it's that the writing and the visuals don't match up. When you commit to romancing Lucanis, he makes you a paella and a coffee. And this is over 60 hours into the video game. We were apparently dating from this point on, but he still hadn't kissed my character. So much more could have been done with this sexy Antivan man. The least they could have given us is a gondola ride in fantasy Venice. I mean, Treviso. So yes, the story is a hot mess. The romance was disappointing, but the combat is pretty good. I played as an Antivan Crows warrior in the Reaper class, and oh boy, it was fun spamming enemies with necrotic damage while wielding a ghostly scythe. The action-adventure style gameplay, while good, is unlike the structured micromanagement of previous Dragon Age games. So that's not a bad thing. After replaying Inquisition recently, one frustration for me was how repetitive the gameplay became. Cast static cage, cast wall of fire, watch the panic to enemies, get zapped. But if you were looking for a more strategic RPG system, the Veilguard is not it. It's a hoot to fling a charged shield into a crowd, watching it pinball between clustered enemies while ratcheting up the damage. Do this a couple of times and you've cleaned out the lower level mooks to focus on the big tanks. A lot of these combat encounters, especially late game, involve popping blight pimples that connect to larger blight cysts via a blighted umbilical cord. How much you enjoy this probably depends on how much you like dermatology shows. There are a series of enjoyable optional boss encounters throughout the game, although again, I would have liked to see more variety in the actions and attacks of each of these enemies. All of the dragon battles take the same structure. The dragon shoots projectiles from the air, slides to the earth near Rook while you madly smash weak points, then about halfway through the dragon leaps onto some sort of rock outcropping. Rinse and repeat until the dragon is dead. There are no trophies for difficulty level in Dragon Age the Veilguard, so if you're playing on Nightmare mode, you are only doing it for the satisfaction and challenge. I chickened out of playing Nightmare mode because you couldn't drop it down midway through in case you were having a hard time, but after playing the game on Underdog mode, I realized Nightmare would have been fine. The key to early game success on harder difficulty modes is exploring as much of the map as possible to upgrade your skills and equipment. Upgrading equipment relies on smashing crates, uncovering trinkets, and opening chests in a never-ending stream of meaningless dopamine hits that would make sense in a Zelda game. There's a loose purpose to this. Selling valuables to faction stores builds up their loyalty. More loyalty unlocks better equipment at the stores, but by the end game, you're drowning in so much legendary kit that you'll have a hard time choosing what to use. Outside of combat, these maps are opened up by solving rudimentary puzzles using companion skills. Tarsh burns walls down, Harding commands rock platforms to appear, and Belara fixes ancient elven laser beams. There's a nice balance between Dragon Age 2's linear levels and Inquisition's overly large maps. Outside the story, outside of the combat, the Veilguard is the prettiest Dragon Age game. The franchise has come a long way since Dragon Age Origins, which was the most brown video game ever made. I mean it is 50 shades of brown. Here, dappled light filters through the Alathan forest, Harding plants seeds under the sunlight through a window, Chiaroscuro carves the machinations of the Antivan Crow's assassinations. And hair. It's the most defined, beautiful, delicate hair I've ever seen in a video game. When it comes down to it, I'd rather do without the flashy outfits and glorious hair in exchange for a more refined story. A fun hairstyle keeps a player engaged for an hour. A brilliant story keeps them engaged for a lifetime. Looking past the flashy window dressing, the flawed storytelling of Dragon Age the Veilguard undermines an enjoyable combat system. I'm glad I played it, but unlike previous Dragon Age games, I won't be playing it again.